Hey, Big Red, what are you made out of?
What am I made of? I'm made of liberty. I'm made of freedom. I'm made of the dreams of children who wish for a better world. I am made of the Emperor's greatest.
Dude, dude, no. You're a 3D printed model. What material are you made out of?
Oh, resin. I'm made out of resin.
One of the biggest no-nos in the tabletop gaming industry is saying you have a game, getting people to pre-order that game, and then not having enough to send them. And it happens everywhere. It's not just in the tabletop gaming industry. Look at Kickstarter. There have been multiple Kickstarter campaigns that have just fallen through and people have lost their money. And so it's something that people in general are becoming a lot more wary of. And in situations like we're experiencing now, where Warhammer, every time they come out with a new game or a new box set, everyone gets excited, but not everyone gets the box set they want. Because more often than not, they don't make enough. So, when I was reaching out to Privateer Press, talking to them about their 3D printed models, they told me something that I thought was very interesting, and I think the rest of the tabletop gaming industry can learn from. But before we get into that, please remember to like and subscribe, follow the channel. We're here to let you know anything we can about the tabletop gaming world, as well as show you how to print, show you how to paint, show you how to do things that'll make your experience better. So stick around. We got a lot more growing to do, and we got a lot more stuff to show you in the future. Privateer Press are the creators of War Machine, and they've done something that most other companies haven't done. And that is they have moved from pressure molded models, pressure molded plastic, or metal models to 3D printed models. And if you watched my last video on why you should be playing War Machine, which you can find here, you'll kind of be able to see a little bit about that. But when I reached out to the people at Privateer Press and asked them, why they did it and what their reasoning was behind it, the answer I got was one that I didn't expect. They said that the reason they moved to 3D printing was because it allowed them to print whatever they needed whenever they needed it. And that there was no such thing as running out of stock, because all they had to do was print more if they needed more. There was no such thing as under deploying, because they always had exactly what they needed to make. As long as people had bought it, they could produce it. They didn't have to buy massive orders. They didn't have to buy a certain amount of boxes of something and make sure they sold it before they could move on to something else. They could literally print what they needed when they needed it. And to me, that was huge. Now, is the process as fast? No, probably not. I mean, anyone who knows 3D printing knows that it takes a minute. And so it may be a little slower. But if you're anything like me, then I'm sure that you think the same when I say that it's better to get it later than to not get it at all. And that's exactly what they're providing to anyone who orders from them. In fact, one of our viewers actually reached out to me in the comments and asked some questions that I'd like to answer now. And the first thing is, just as a 3D printer, as somebody who prints my own models, what is Privateer Press doing right? And so I want to talk about that a little bit. What are they doing right? They're printing high quality, good models. These are models that look great. Now, something that you have to kind of know about them is that the process is evolving and changing. When they first started out, they were just printing, with what they had. And they've been changing the process. They've been changing the formula. They've been changing the resin, everything that they're doing in an attempt to make it better and better. And it's getting there. The first models that they released were very brittle. As most people who print with resin know, they can be very brittle. But the ones that I got, the ones that they shipped out a couple months ago, their latest models have a lot of give, have a lot of flex to them. I picked it up and I dropped it a few feet and it didn't break. The models are good quality, and the resin that they're using is a flexible resin. I reached out to them to see if they could tell me a little bit more about it, and all they were willing to say was that they're constantly trying to improve the formula that they're using. And they're trying different resins all the time to find one that is high quality, while at the same time being a little more flexible so that they don't have, broken models. As a 3D printer, I look at these models and I think they are doing a great job. They're using tons of tiny little supports so that when you break those supports off, guess what? There's nothing left behind. I have seen no evidence of supports except for on the bottom of miniatures. On the bottom of some of the bigger miniatures that are going to be glued down to a base anyway, I've seen them, but nowhere else. Overall, the quality, in my mind, is really good. It's as good as I can do, if not better. Now, is there room for improvement? Yeah, I don't have an 8K or a 12K printer. I don't know what printers they're using. The layer lines, I don't know the height. From what I can guess, they're probably doing, 0.02 layer height, which is great, but you can still see it. You can see just about everything if you look at it, but after a simple coat of paint, that goes away. So could they change those things? Could they make them a little clearer? Could they do things? Of course they could. Will they do those things? Does it make sense to do those things from a business aspect? I don't think so. I think that they are finding the best middle ground that they could, and any company that starts 3D printing their models is going to have to do the same. But do the pros outweigh the cons?
Can't outcon a con, bro.
These models generally come in a single piece. For those of you out there who like to take the heads and paint the heads individually or paint the arms and things like that before you put them on, it's not an option with these sets because they're sending you the entire model 3D printed. For some of you, that's going to be huge. That's going to be great because you don't have to put them together. You don't have to spend hours popping them off of sprues and gluing them together and things like that. It's just done. So if you're looking to be quick and get on the table, that's good news. If you're looking for high detail that you can paint really well and do little pieces at a time, you don't have that anymore. So is that something they could do better? Definitely. Something I would hope that eventually they'll start doing, even if it's only 4 or 5 pieces each model that allow you to put them together. I think that would be great. Does it make sense for them to do it right now? Probably not, and that's why they haven't. Other cons to these models, like I said, you're going to be able to see layer lines under the right light. That may bother you to the point where you don't want them. But with 3D printed miniatures, it's something you kind of have to deal with. And the layers are so small that generally you can't tell anyway, unless you're looking at them in the exact right light, the exact right angle, and they haven't been painted yet. Another con that I have to say is, I took 2 models and I started dropping them from various heights. Yes, it's more malleable. Yes, it's better than most resin out there, but they're going to break if you drop them from too high, and when I was dropping from about 3 feet, a sword broke. I did the same thing with the Games Workshop model, and obviously it stuck together. Plastic is going to be a little better, a little more durable until Privateer for Press finds that perfect middle ground. So I'm hoping they find it soon, but for the time being, I think they're in a really good spot. I have 0 problems with the set that I have, and I know the sets are only getting better. One last thing that I have to mention as far as things that they're doing wrong, they're leaving supports on. So a lot of these models that you'll get, yeah, I mean, most of the supports have been taken off, most of the big ones, but they do leave some of the smaller supports on, which, if you're used to doing this hobby, then there's going to be cleanup. And so there's always going to be cleanup. And with these, there's generally a lot less cleanup than with anything else. But they are going to have supports that you are going to have to pull off. All of the ones that I have done so far, the supports are so small that when I break them off or pull them off, I use a scalpel or just my clippers, and they come right off, no problems. And it still looks clean after they're done. But it is an added thing, and as long as we're talking about cons, it's got to be in there because you don't have it with anything else, but still a lot less work than any of the others that I have seen. The last question that I received is, what can they do better? And I feel like I've kind of answered that a little bit along the way. But the thing that I always think of with this is that as a tabletop gamer, I want to be able to customize my miniatures. I want to be able to change my poses without having to kit bash them too much. And they don't allow you to do that. At least these ones from Privateer Press. Now, they've gone out of their way that for every unit you get, the unit comes in 5 different dramatic poses. Like, they're very different poses, which is super nice because you can paint them in different ways. But if you want your army to look a certain way, you're not going to get that. But overall, it seems to me that this has got to be a way that people move, that other companies move. You know, the title of this video is whether or not Games Workshop is going to move to 3D printing. And to keep up with the demand that they have, to keep up with the quality that's out there, it seems like a no-brainer that most companies will move to this in this direction. That way they only have to print exactly what they need. They can go in and change models and things like that immediately and start printing them out a different way. So if there's something that's wrong, they can correct it. They don't have to deal with the thousands of orders they already have. 3D printing is a way that just allows you to get exactly what you want on the table quickly, cost effectively, and you never have to hear the words that we're sold out. You just have to hear,
any minute now. Good things come to those who wait.
you might have to wait a few days. You might have to wait a few weeks even, you know, depending on what the quality is. But companies have to move in this direction. I mean, all of us who are 3D printing at home, we love it because we're already there. We're already doing this. So it only makes sense that they're going to start doing it at the same time so that they can compete with those of us who are doing it at home. And with that, hopefully, prices will drop as well. Ultimately, I see this being the direction that most companies go in the future. And I think that's a good thing. Let me know what you think it is or isn't. You know, I know a lot of people are anti 3D printing, but if you can get to the same quality that the plastic models are at right now, what's the downside? Why do you think that they shouldn't? Or why do you think that they should? Ultimately, I think 3D printing is one of the best things that's happened to the tabletop gaming industry. It has made it more accessible to everyone. And once these big companies start figuring out how to use that to their advantage, well, the whole landscape's going to change. So stick around. Stick around and stay with us here at Pulsegate, and we'll deal with that as it happens together. As always, thank you for joining us. And just remember, don't spend so much time creating your world that you forget to spend some time in it. Till next time.